Hello, this intimidating with the first episode of The Minds of Melty with with my first guest, freedom ringer Jaykom. Introduce yourself, Jaykom.
Yeah, sure. Um, I'm Jaykom. I'm from Philly, and I play Mario in Melty Blood Type Lumina.
Mm, good to hear, good to hear. So, can you tell us more about your tag, Jaykom? How did that come to be?
Oh yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. So originally I went by a bunch of names, just like most people do. Um, but I wanted something probably around like 13 or 14 that could easily be made for like YouTube channels and Twitters and logo graphics and stuff because I've always been interested in competitive gaming, so I wanted something shorter. Um, so at the time, my middle school email was the first four letters of my last name and then the first letter of my first name, which is Jacom. Now, the problem with that was it wasn't how I wanted it to be pronounced. People would just mispronounce it because it's not a real word. So I'd get called Jackum, which, as far as I'm concerned, is not the greatest thing to be called.
I don't think so.
So I spelled it phonetically, so Jaykom, so that there was a clear separation, Jaycom. Um, and I went back and forth a while whether I wanted to be a C or a K, but people kept calling me Jason, which they do in this community now. So even though I went with the K to avoid that, it still happens, unfortunately. So yeah, that's where my name came from.
Hmm, that's interesting. I think most people either try to think of something like they smash their favorite things together, or like it'll just come to them randomly when they're just
Yeah.
bored.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of same for me. Like I came up with intimidating during sixth grade social studies. I was thinking like intimate David, but I thought it would just be too. I didn't want people to think I was intimate David, like intimate
Yeah, I
David,
know what you mean.
intimate
Yeah.
David and stuff.
No, that's red.
Yeah. So going on to your colors,
Hmm.
why do you come up with that combination of colors? It's usually like the hair for your characters are like usually blonde, like the green top, and then like brown for the bottom.
Yeah. So that's interesting that you ask. So this my color on Mario is a default custom color.
Oh,
It is
really?
yeah, it is the last Mario's last color, so it's custom color 6 or whatever the last slot is. Um and I love like earth tones, like how Mario is dressed are like colors that I wear all the time. Like I wear like khaki pants and a green hoodie like often. Um So I was like, oh, this is cool. I like this fit. Um, and since that became my trademark from playing Mario, I was like, no, I might as well every time I try a new character play something like try and match it as best as I can so people recognize me across all the characters that I play. Um, but I wanted to make sure that I'd never created a color for Mario because it's I don't know what it is. There's some mental thing about playing and not playing as your color like at offline events, and I didn't want to be the guy who sits there and makes his color before every set. So I was like, I need to pick one of these custom colors, and luckily Mario has good ones. So, um, yeah, that's why I picked it.
Mhm. That's nice. I didn't actually. I never checked the. Well, no, I do check the custom colors. I have one for each slot. I never. I usually just pick it random, then change it afterwards. Like I never knew that was the
Yeah.
color six.
Now, what's super infuriating is sometimes you'll go to a tournament and someone else plays Mario, and a lot of people overwrite custom color 6 first because it's the easiest one to get to, like on color select.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been times when I sat down. It's happened to me in Japan a couple of times. I sat down to play my character, and my custom color was overwritten with somebody else's like color, um, which has the unintended consequence of like, oh, the thing that I was trying to avoid now, I have to deal with it. But it doesn't happen all that often.
That's good. I think I know there's also another thing with. I know some people in the community like making custom colors that only like they can see. I like
Mm.
I like that. Like I make some myself, but I don't use them in game. Like for me, like I want people to like know me as this color. Like it
Oh yeah.
doesn't feel like right if I just see my color and then it's like color one for somebody else. It doesn't like if you show me people of tournaments, I can say like, oh, this bark is Blitzspark because of the red or something like that. You can't
Yeah.
really do that with color one.
No, that's so true, actually. Well, one of my very good friends, Young, he is like the king of making those custom palettes. And he's asked me if I wanted to do them before, and I'm the same as you. Like, um, I love to have, you know, people like other Mario players will select my color as like a meme in tournament or something, and I love that I'm just been associated with um a specific color on my character. So I think that's cool, and I prefer that over whatever custom palette could be made.
Yeah, I think I remember. I think it was one of the circuits this year. I can't remember which rower player, but it was like they kept switching between different rowers. And I think it
Hmm.
was Moai, then it was no, Moai was the last one. There was not Fame. Uh, there's like a dark red one.
Oh yeah. Oh God, what's his name? I just had it. It does start with an F. I can't think of what his name is though. But yeah, that was I think that was Pico who did that in
Oh
tournament.
yeah, maybe it was Pico.
Flamex.
Flamex,
Flamex.
yeah, that's the name.
Yeah.
Flamex. I mean, yeah, I think that's like a similar thing. Like, well, it kind of was, but like back then, for all the Miyakos, it was all the black robe. It was all somebody would always get their color stolen because everybody would use the black robe.
Mm.
That's why I changed mine when I could. So I had the black robe with the blue bow, but I didn't want people to see my color, so I changed it to blue when they got the new colors.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into meta talk. Where do you see Mario in this current meta?
Um, it's kind of interesting because the character is really good and he has a really strong win condition, which is very important in Type Lumina. Um, it's the reason that Aki is so good. It's the reason that Alco is so good. Um, just the ability to hit your opponent once and end the game. Unfortunately, Mario has a bit more flaws in that department than the two characters that I just mentioned. Um, he also has one of the worst matchup spreads in the game for a character that isn't bad. So like Kohaku matchup spread is terrible. Um, Dante's matchup spread is terrible. Dan matchup spread is terrible. But those characters just aren't that good. Mario is a good character, but his matchup spread's really bad. The characters that he beats are not that good, apart from Vlav. And he loses really hard to characters that are really prevalent in the meta, like Saber and PCL. Um, so it's hard to put him any higher than sort of mid. Um, I think he's better than the standard characters like Miyako and Shiki. Um, but I think, especially as people learn more about the character, he loses some positions. So somewhere in between the standard characters and then like Hisui and Nakia, probably, honestly, if I'm going to be real, he's probably the exact center of the tier list this version. Um, it's been two patches in a row that he hasn't gotten anything crazy. The only things that have really helped him the last two patches are pretty much just the 2-2B 2-2A change, where it's no longer punishable on hit, um, or like punishable with a button. So you can't, if you see 2-2B, you can't press a button and punish him. Um, and that was two versions ago. So apart from that, he hasn't really gotten too much. The character's really strong and can lay me out. And I think if you want to make a top eight, getting good at Mario is probably your best bet because um, he has a lot of ways to just enforce layer one. And if you don't have an answer for it, you'll just lose. So,
Yeah, that's why I kind of been picking. Well, I mean, because the first time when I first saw the Mario, like I didn't see the Mario trailer, I saw a screenshot of Mario, and honestly, I thought it was like I thought somebody made like a fake Melty Blood leak because I didn't believe that he got in.
mm.
When then I saw PC and I was like, wait, this is real. And then I played him for like a month on the side. Then I dropped him. Then I came back I'm actually like a month later.
Mm.
It's Maybe Curry was right. 1 week on Mario, it really changes things.
Yeah. The big problem is too, and the reason that you've never seen anybody make the switch off of a character onto Mario, including like Moai, for instance. Um, the character is extremely obtuse to learn. He's not hard, but he plays the game in a kind of unnatural way for Melty Blood. He doesn't interact in the air the same way as most characters. Um, and his ground options are like a 50-50 basically. It's like, oh, you either throw none or you wait and do 3BC. So the way that Mario interacts in neutral is really, really strange. And it's also hard to learn the character because um, a lot of the time you'll get hits that are kind of robbery situations and you'll win. So it's hard to push yourself to the next level. Like this has happened for all of the Mario players. There's a plateau um, when you can beat people who don't know how the character works. But as soon as you play somebody that has matchup knowledge, it feels like it's impossible. And the reason for that is the character has really high robbery potential on people who are unaware. So you're not forced to learn a lot of the very specific things that Mario needs to do in neutral to win, which I think makes the character extremely hard to pick up and very hard to stick with if you already have a character that you're competent at.
I know because yeah, that later one is like really strong, but also people, it's kind of hard to. Well, no, when I open up Luna, the first thing I'm thinking about isn't really like I'll get robbed by Mario. Well, robbed. I'll lose to a Mario, but then I'll maybe look at the VOD, but that's probably it. I don't really lab against Mario like
Right.
at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I
And
just found out that you could shield the was it four? I think it was like four, like between the hits of 4BC.
yeah, if you
I didn't know
crouch, yeah.
that.
Yeah, there's a lot of interact. This has actually caused, at the very least, Kirby and I a lot of grief in the community. Because there was some time, not these days, because I think we've proved that we're better players than just robbing you on layer one. Um, but previously, maybe like 6 months to a year ago, um, there was a lot of hate toward the character functionally, um, because of situations that have easy answers if you just took the time to go in the lab and look at them. Like the number one example of this is if you block 3BC, you are in most cases guaranteed an air throw after. Um, this move is not like, oh, I can just throw it out for free. Um, Also, you can hit JA. Like there's so many, you have so much recourse against this move in particular. 2BC is another one, the Mario's Moon Parry. Um, there are two answers that pretty much no one in the community uses, which is baffling to me. It is jump cancel shieldable if you hit into it with an air normal. So if you do IED JC and you hit into it, then you can jump cancel shield. And it's full punish, obviously. And if you're in Moon Drive and you hit into it with any normal, you can immediately cancel into a Moon skill, and Mario is completely locked out as checkmate. It's checkmate. So both of those things are very, very valuable tools against the character that just people do not use for whatever reason, whether it's a lack of knowledge or um, a lack of inputting that into your muscle memory. Um, but things like that and people not really understanding how the character works created a lot of animosity toward Mario in this community for a long time. So, yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I think most people are the same way.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the stuff in your 2 hour counterplay guide are those still applicable?
You know what's funny is this is my second 2 hour counterplay guide. I did one about a year ago, and then I did this one like 3 or 4 months ago. Um, yes, everything is still applicable. The character pretty much has no changes this version. Um, at all as far as how he works functionally. Unfortunately for people, there's a new setup discovered every day because Kirby works so hard behind the scenes trying to discover new things for the character. Um, but the setups are not what kills people in the matchup. I mean, like we're getting hit. Wait, you got hit to be put in a setup, right? So there's something going on there that, um, and not just watching the guide, but watching the guide and really being intent, or having an intent behind watching it and practicing things. Um, it'll make dealing with setups a lot easier because you won't be so worried about none call in neutral or J4BC. So yes, please go and watch that. It's very good information.
All right, I'll have in the link for the YouTube. Stepping away from LT, can you tell the viewers why they should watch more spaghetti westerns?
Oh, actually peak question. Okay. I have I have made it my life goal to watch every good and shitty Italian Western movie that has ever been made. I have a list going currently, and I think I have watched 42 as of today.
Ooh,
Different spaghetti westerns, which for those of you who don't know, are just westerns made by Italian directors. Um, they have some very, very interesting themes that I think are kind of prevalent in today's age. Um, the anti-hero, I think, is on the way to making its comeback. And the spaghetti western really revolutionized that whole trope for a character. Um, it's a little bit like the genre is a little bit dicey as far as today's political standards are concerned. So do bear in mind if um, watching things like that are a bit shaky for you. I wouldn't recommend. But I think it's just a super interesting take, and it's very crazy to me that a whole different country has an interpretation on something that is uniquely American. Um, so I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's some of the best actors that have ever existed are featured in these films, um, and I recommend highly. I have a thread on my Twitter actually on 10 that I recommend. So if you want to check them out, you can check my Twitter.
okay. I think the most people know about or is one of the title. Well, actually, a few of the titles from the Dollar trilogy. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. So those are three out of Sergio Leone's four spaghetti westerns. They're phenomenal. They feature Clint Eastwood. They are kind of related, but not really. Um, the all of the leads are the same, and he uses the same actors for the villains quite often. Um, but they're not like let me watch one, two, and then three, and then their stories will coincide. It's like he drops little tiny hints here and there that they're sort of maybe connected. But the final movie in that trilogy, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, is one of the greatest films ever made. Um, and this is not just me saying this, critically acclaimed, very, very good. Um, but for me, I like a much more compact story. So A Fistful of Dollars is my favorite of the three. I love it. It's very, very concise, very quick. Um, but the whole trilogy is amazing. Clint Eastwood's a beast.
Yeah, people like know the like titles because like I remember when I was like in elementary school I was playing like a flash game off of like I think it was like Nickelodeon India or something. It was called The Good, the Bad, and the LT Gray. I was like, I feel like I've heard this name before, but I didn't know where.
Oh, it comes up everywhere. Like you'll see it in like completely unrelated. You know what it's like? This to bring it back to fighting games a little bit, so if people aren't getting lost. You know that one Uni song that's featured in like every fighting game video?
Oh, the character select screen.
Yeah, yeah. That song, that the Good and Bad the Ugly is exactly like that. It's like you'll just be doing something completely irrelevant, and you'll see the title pop up in some meme or inside joke or something. Um, which is very, very funny for me.
Yeah, I was going through Twitter like a few months ago or something. I saw like a video from Wuthering Waves. I clicked on it. I heard the undernight for some reason.
I'm telling you, it's like I watched a Summoning Salt video like a couple months ago, and he had it in there too. Um, this stuff just pops up everywhere. I think it's cool, especially when it's something that you're interested in.
It's nice. Well, let's get back to Melty. Make sure not losing anybody. Uh, can you explain more about that Olgar and Ugar tweet? The Olgar tweet?
Mm, this is my favorite Melty Blood topic, actually.
Ooh,
Um,
do
so
tell.
there's a very clear distinction between the people who play now and the people who played in 2021, 2022 when the game was younger. Um, and a lot of those people that played early on had immense success. We talk about Masoma, Red Blade, Trip, people in this category um, that were very good then, but haven't played the game in a very long time. Um, and honestly, I think the game has evolved so much, and we've been playing it, pretty strongly for the better part of 3, 4 years. Um, I think people really underestimate the level of play now and have sort of a rose tinted glasses on about how the game was back then. Um, and I I'm very happy about Climax this year happening, um, because I think it really showed the level of play currently for the game. Um, Japan didn't stop like we did, as far as pushing the game is concerned. So those guys, especially Shijo and Moai, are pretty good examples of what older Melty Blood players, if they continued playing the game even today, how they would be. And I think it just showed that the people who are playing the game now are really, really competent, and the level of play is amazingly high, um, probably higher than even how it was in the past. And it just kind of drives me nuts a little bit that we downplay the accomplishments of the current players in favor of people who have long since dropped the game or have played haven't played in a very long time. Um, and the only people left from that are still doing really well, and it's because they continue to play the game. It's not because they were just better. The two main ones are Lucy and Kiri, and they've been playing the game for at the top level for the entirety of its lifespan. And it just goes to show that not only is the competition just as good as it is now, but better even. Um, Especially people like Aaron and Medusa, who would just push the boundaries of this game completely.
It's here because well, it's kind of because I know there was of course on FGC Square there was that what was it called it's the drop your hot take for fighting games every like month or so whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Same things about like I don't remember, actually was it like Melty Blood or something? I can't remember. There was something about oh anyway I can't remember, but I do agree with you like because I do think if you like played the game in like early years and then just didn't play and then just came back, it's kind of like a different game now.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
I mean, think about how Shield was at the beginning of the game versus how it is
Oh,
now.
I couldn't hear the end of it.
Like, Shield A going from non-punishable full scaling, um, pretty much you could use it whenever you want, to now extremely punishable on block, and you'll get like a throw combo off of it basically. Um, it's just entirely the game is entirely different. Um, Now that being said, if people like Masoma continue to play the game through its whole lifespan, I wouldn't doubt that he would be the best player in the game right now. So definitely don't take that the wrong way. It's just I don't think that it's as easy as people make it out to be. I don't think that these people could come back and play for a week tomorrow, um, and even win like a Mash Fest, for instance. Um, I don't think that there's any way.
Yeah, I believe it. It's more just clarify. Also, people who stopped and just haven't played it at all. Not the people who kept going, Lucy and Curie. Just people who have stopped. You can't just
Well,
come back.
yeah, I mean, they've
Yeah,
proved it.
yeah.
Like they're still playing at the highest level. They're both really good players. It's just you can't expect to stop and then just come back and be how you were. It's not possible.
Yeah. So since you have been to Japan for Evo Japan, and we'll be going to go EU for odd play. Can you tell
Hmm.
us more about how you see the region of NA, as in that the strength of NA?
Ah, you're hitting perfect topics for me, actually. Um, I made a tweet maybe like 3 months ago where I said maybe it wasn't a tweet or it was in a Discord or something, but I was talking about how close NA is to Japan. Um, and I think that that is extremely evident after Climax. When I went over there, Japanese players are really good, but they play a completely different brand of Type Lumino. Um, and I think that the way NA plays and interacts with the game is really challenging for them to deal with. There's not a ton of international competition for this game, actually, pretty much none. Um, so they have just developed the game in a completely different way, um, which, in my opinion, is very good for playing inside of the region of Japan. I think that these players are really strong and their gameplay relies a lot on respect. Um, but we can look at Moai for instance. Moai plays extremely disrespectfully and dominates over there. And you don't see that a lot in Japan. And I think a lot of NA players will check you on very seemingly small things just to make sure that you have a response, like heating on wake up or hitting into a moon skill when they have MD, things like that. Just checks to make sure that you're respecting their ability to do things on defense or on offense. And I don't think Japan was really ready for that. Um, and I think it takes a while to adapt. So I think Japan and NA are actually, very, very similar in terms of skill level. We just play the game very differently. If you're looking for this brand of quote unquote clean melty blood, I think Japan does that better than us. But I think the game is very uh, sporadic, not random, but there's a lot of interactions in the game that can make or break an entire set for you. So getting yourself into sort of scrambly situations can be pretty advantageous depending on what characters you play. I think NA does that well. As far as EU is concerned, we'll see when it comes to odd played. I just think the player base is really small. They have a few really strong players, but I don't think that um, EU is in the same conversation as NA and JP currently. I think the best EU players can hang with the best of both regions. I don't think that that's a question at all. But there's just not that many top players in EU. So um, it's a little hard for me to say for sure. But when you ask me this in 4 months, I'll tell you again how I feel.
Yeah, I think well, I actually have a few run-ins with EU because since I'm the only one from NA who keeps joining the regular bi-weekly ones, I think
Mm.
it's more of hmm, I mean, they have a dedicated player base for sure. It's not like I'm getting. Well, I got second once. I'm like, I don't think they're getting as much experience
Yeah,
as like they could. Because I'm sure if they could, they would be going. But it's just what
oh,
it
I agree with
is.
you. There's also not that much character representation over there either. They're missing a couple characters at the top level, namely Mario, for instance. When I was at Con, I played a couple of EU players, and they were telling me how they have literally zero experience with the character ever since Magic Rider stopped playing him. Um, so I think it's hard, especially when you're not filling out all of your, matchup sheet. I think it's really very difficult to improve and push yourself when, um, most people just don't have the chance. Like every day in PSA and NA, you can play the best players in the game. Um, but I don't know if that's the case in EU.
And oh, can't forget Lat Lat AM. I can't. I do have a few homies in Lat AM like Line Ejaculate, Z Wart, who else? Bad Luck Skis, but as well, maybe it's just the Lat AM server. But I don't really see much like events.
They
There's ping for games like
they do have, and they run I think a monthly tournament.
mm,
They might run more even too. Um, But they have some amazing players down there. Donnie is one of them. Guy's unreal, unbelievable CL player. Um, they have really, talented players. It just, becomes one of those things where um, there hasn't really been an opportunity for um, a gigantic international competition since Evo of 2023, I guess it was, or 2022. um, Whatever the last Evo was that Melty was at. And unfortunately, apart from Climax, there's not much in the way of, mandatory international events. Uni is pretty lucky; they have the Arc World Tour. They're at Evo, so they have a pretty good opportunity to, see international competition. But I just don't see much, and I haven't made my way down there to see in person. So that might be next on my agenda.
Yeah, I think they had. I'm trying to remember. They just had a major down there for like I think it was like man. I know there was Uni there. I knew there was. I can't remember. I think it was a Saber who won for
Hmm.
that major. Can't.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
But yeah, I hope someday we get some like giant things where I can actually see the strength of all these regions like together and see who comes out on top.
Yeah, that'll be a Type Lumina 2 angle, but I'm very
Yeah,
excited for that. And I'm extremely optimistic about it. So
yeah.
can't wait
When
for the day.
when Natsu finishes Red Garden when in 2030, we'll all be back.
Hmm.
Okay. To get out from our team, how's it feel being a Vikings fan right now?
It's fucking rad, bro. It's so sick. Um, this is like pretty reminiscent of 2022. That season we only lost 4 games, and all of the games but one we won by one score. It's very, very similar this year. We started off the season really hot and then had a couple of blunders in the middle of the season. We're back up after a couple of injuries. We're feeling good now. My hope is that next year will be even better than this year, and which is surprising considering we're doing so well. Um, but we have our backup starting in Sam Darnold, and he's playing very well, much better than he's played his entire career, basically. Um, but next year is when I'm very hopeful. So I'm hoping we make the NFC Championship game this year, and then next year we will be winning the Super Bowl. So you can
Hmm.
mark my words down now.
Okay. I was gonna make a little announcement, like make sure the viewers knew we were talking about football, but Super Bowl already gave it away. But I want to know why the Vikings? Why not?
Oh,
Why not the Steelers?
this is a great question. So I've lived in a bunch of places in my life. I'm from St. Louis originally, and I spent some time in Florida, a couple of different places in Florida, um, and then moved to Pennsylvania a couple years ago. So I'm not actually Pennsylvania native, but when I lived in St. Louis, um, my parents have also moved around a ton. They're from all over the place, so neither of them have any football team allegiance. So there was no like we just watched football to watch football at my house growing up. There was no team. um, and then at some point around, I was 9 or 10 years old. My brother got his first job, my older brother. And for Christmas, he wanted to get me an NFL jersey. And like I had mentioned previously, we didn't really have a team. So he went to the mall and with his small amount of money, went to the bargain bin fake jersey store at the mall, and reached in and got a very fake. So fake, in fact, it didn't even have any logos on it. It was just purple and gold 84 Randy Moss jersey. And my brother brought it home and gave it to me for Christmas. It was the shittiest fucking jersey you've ever seen in your life. But it was cool because, I didn't have a team. And the Vikings were so low on my radar, personally, as far as teams that I was watching, that I didn't even know what team it was for. So I had to look up the purple and gold NFL team. um, and from that moment on, I wore that jersey every day because I was so pumped about it. And I was like, I'm going to be a Vikings fan. So every day since then, I have been a Vikings fan.
That's good. I was kind of glad. that I didn't see any Steelers posts because I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan because it didn't feel good to do a podcast with the enemy. So
No, that's fair enough. Luckily for you, even if I wasn't a Vikings fan, I live on the opposite side of Pennsylvania, so I would have been a Eagles fan. Which, much to my chagrin, all of my Philly FGC friends are Eagles fans, which makes locals very difficult.
yeah, yeah. So was football really like higher? Oh yeah, right. You said you watched it like just like to watch it, right?
Oh yeah. As far as professional sports go, I'm a baseball fan first. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan and have been forever. My family are massive Cardinals fans, every single person in my family. And baseball is really high on the totem pole as far as sports go because I played it a lot when I was a kid. Um, but nowadays, it's much more difficult to watch baseball because there's a game on 3, 4 days a week. Um, So pretty much football is my main thing nowadays because it's very easy to just block off 3 hours on a Sunday and watch the game. So I make sure to do that every week.
Yeah, that's been kind of because I just started. Well, I started really watching football like last year. I always like knew about the Ravens because I had a Ravens lunch bag. Well, I still have a Ravens lunch bag, and that's
Mhm.
about it. I only like the only game I remember seeing like on the TV is like when we were like beating like the Commanders when they were still called the Redskins back like a while back,
Yeah.
and we were like just out demolishing them. That was the only thing I remember.
It's always fun. One of my good friends, Silicon, who's a very good
Oh,
chaos
so like I
player, and
actually reached out to Silicon for chaos experience like years ago and just did it again when I saw him on con.
oh hell yeah! So he's like my best friend of the FGC. We used to live get down the road from each other, um, and he had sort of a similar experience. Growing up in Philly, it's kind of difficult to not be an Eagles fan because it's so ingrained in the culture here. But he also just recently last year wanted to get back into watching and um, had ties to Philly sports. So it was cool for me to um, sort of help him through the process of, how to engage in football discussions and, what's going on and all that stuff. So I'm glad to hear that, you're in the same boat.
Okay, switching. Oh, not switching back to Melty yet, but switching to
Okay.
music.
Oh, okay.
What is the best album on the greatest hits of David Allen Coe?
Mm. That's a good question. Um, there's so David Allan Coe is sort of a rough topic to bring up, I think. Um, because a lot of 70s country music is riddled with um let's just say bad things. So it makes it very hard to listen to. Um, and it makes almost no album, especially from him, uh, listenable. Like I wouldn't recommend any album to be listened to front to back by David Allan Coe at all, because you will almost certainly stumble into something that you don't want to listen to. But I'm a big proponent of separating artist from uh, the music itself. It's the same reason that, despite me being Jewish, I still do listen to Kanye sometimes. Um, as far as individual songs are concerned, he has some bangers. Never Call Me by My Name is one of the greatest country songs ever made. Um, so much so that, to bring it back to football, Peyton Manning just karaokeed it on TV the other day, which was sick for me to see. Um, Family Reunion. It's a song about how his family and him grew up playing bluegrass in Ohio. Just everybody picked up an instrument or sang or whatever, and it's a pretty fun song. And then Piece of Wood and Steel, which sounds like a gun thing, but it's a guitar thing. And it just talks about how important his guitar is to him and how it's helped him through a lot of bad times. So if you want to get into listening to 70s country music, I would actually not recommend listening to him because you could stumble upon some things that you don't want to hear. Um, if you do want to start, Waylon Jennings, phenomenal country music artist. Willie Nelson, also phenomenal country music artist. And it'll get you into that genre a little bit.
That's good. You actually like read my mind because I think after which one? I think after I got past Divers Do It Deeper, then I kind of like the rest of the greatest hits. I really just
Mm.
like really love like the like love songs after Willie Waylon and Me, like Side Country Song, Face to Face, We Let Me Think Too Much Lately, and then of course You
Mm.
Never Even Call Me by My Name. That one's probably my favorite so
I'm telling you,
far.
it's a banger, bro. And the ending is so fun. Like, if you ever, I'm a big karaoke fan. I love it. I don't know if you've seen on my Twitter, but I was belting songs out. And every time I go to a bar and sing karaoke, I always sing that. Just because even if people don't know the song, the second verse really gets laughs out of people, and it just makes the whole situation really fun. So, love that song.
Okay, okay. Back to Melty Blood. Oh,
Okay.
Melty Blood Associated. Are you a big fan of tattoos?
No. What is this? Are you Nardwar, bro? How do you know this? No, I hate them actually.
That's
Um,
I was gonna ask about what you think about the old design for a CL, a power CL without her.
okay, I will
Or
say.
okay, okay.
So my hatred of tattoos is rooted in some very long-standing traditional things. But in character design, I think it's kind of rad, and I think PCL's design in MBEC is way better than her design in PL.
Ooh,
Um, Apart from the function, I think the function in MBEC is kind of goofy. I don't know. Her function in Type Lumina, as frustrating as it is to fight, I think is really unique and very cool. And her weapon is sick as fuck, obviously. Um, but the way that she looked, like, I don't know anything about lore, so we definitely can't talk about that. But as far as like characters that I would be interested in playing, PCL and Lumina, kind of Resident Sleeper design. Um, but in MBAC, I thought she was so sick. It's just a shame she's super slow and her buttons are gigantic. So not the kind of character I like, but I think she was way cooler than.
cause I kind of like. Hmm, I didn't like them at. Well, I mean, I was like, on them at first.
Mm.
Then I kept hearing people, it's not so much better, so much better. Then I started hating it. Then like a few weeks ago, I was like, it's all right. But the only thing that like really like stands out to me is like the like barrel design, like the red and white on like her elbow and whatever.
Mm.
So I'm a Sonic fan, right? And those barrels remind me of Sonic 3's Carnival Night Zone. So every time I look at her, I associate her with like clown instead of like something like cool or something. Like every time I look at it, it's like I'll look at the wings and stuff like, oh, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice. But when I look down, it's like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, that's valid. Problem with MBAC too is like, unless you're looking at like art that was created, like you can't really even tell what the characters look like. To be honest,
mm,
the game looked like Minecraft, bro. I don't know.
shh. Now let me stop. I did like what I actually did play. I actually played MBAC a little bit before Lumina came out. I was playing White Land because he had
Mm.
ice, and I was thinking of hopefully bringing her back to Lumina, but like I know that's not happening. That's going to be like 2032 if White Land is even going to be in the game, which she'll probably be an alt color for Land. That's about it. Uh,
Yeah, I don't think she's getting in the game.
yeah, that's not spoilers to say anymore. Like people know Land's getting in the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't expect that. I thought you were just going to be like, no, I hate pizza tattoo. That's kind of interesting to hear.
Mm-hmm. I think she looks badass.
Okay. Okay, can you talk about more what happened with the? Because I was looking at the Mario guide, Mario counterplay VOD like months ago. I saw the World Series announcement. You know what happened with that?
Mm. So this is an event that I ran probably a year ago now. And it was very, very challenging. It was essentially a regional team tournament for NA and just NA. Um, and originally I wanted to do it in a sort of state by state, but there's not five good ready to play people from each state, and also that tournament would be really long. So instead, I got all of the states that I could that had full teams. So Pennsylvania was one of them. and then everyone else has sort of combined them, like uh, PNW and Western Canada, and then Eastern Canada had a team, and then there was Texas, and we threw some other people on there. Um, and basically, there was a cash prize, but it was more for fun and just sort of to test um, my own personal theory because I thought that uh, Philly type Lumina was really good. Um, uh, and I think the tournament ran really well, and it got a lot of viewers on watching the game. It was averaging in the like 150 region as far as Twitch viewers are concerned, which for those of you who don't know, for Type Lumina events, it's
Very good. Very good.
very good. Yeah. Um, I was pretty lucky though because a lot of the local scenes sort of latched onto it. Um, One of the big ones being St. Louis. We had a team for Missouri and St. Louis FGC had a lot of people watching and things like that. So it went really well. It was a little bit scuffed running it because I not only did I play in the tournament, I also ran it alone. Um,
Ooh,
so
that's
I unfortunately I just ran another event alone. So I did not learn my lesson, but I would not recommend that to anybody that wants to run anything on some kind of large scale. Um, get somebody to help you, you know. But anyway, that event was really successful and it was a blast. Um, I think my days of TOing are kind of over. Um, I'm trying to put less time into everything that isn't competing. I took a break. I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but I took a break from the game because I was feeling pretty burnt out on it after my trip to Japan. And I realized that it wasn't that I didn't have time or desire to compete in Type Lumina itself. It was I was competing in Type Lumina and Uni and running TL events and going to every single event that I possibly could. And it was just too much. So um, TOing had to get the axe from me as far as me running events is concerned.
okay. So yeah, last I was gonna ask you about how the NAMBTL Invitational went. If anything went a little smoother than that one.
Mm. No, it went worse probably.
Worse. Ooh.
Yeah. So luckily for me, for the uh World Series, I had my buddy stream it. So I guess I technically didn't do it all alone, but as far as running it and all of that, I did that bit by myself. But my buddy streamed it. So for the MBTL Invitational for NA, I streamed and ran it myself, but I didn't play. So I thought that that would be a fine enough compromise and that I could handle it, but it is a complete mess. Um, I think everyone who played in it had a great time, and I think that the results were pretty interesting. We also got basically a VOD of some of the best matches that you'll pretty much ever see, which is phenomenal as well. Um, but apart from that, as far as like tournament goes, it was ran kind of poorly. Um, but I think everybody that entered enjoyed it, and there was some good cash prize for the people who are really grinding the game. So um, I think everybody was satisfied and happy with it, and the viewership was really good too. So
And that's
that was
always
the
good.
bonus.
More eyes on the game. More eyes on the game.
Hmm.
Do you think there were like any well associated with the Invitational? Do you think there are like any like hidden like multiplayer type Luna threats, either online or offline, that you want to like shout out?
So there's a couple that come to mind. Firstly, is not a player I think that's really you know considered underground or secret anymore, but hardly. So Arc player from Minnesota who is phenomenal, um, really really good player and has shocked a lot of people offline, but doesn't compete online. And I think that a lot of this community is pretty much online focused because it's hard for people to get to events, especially because the player base is so young. But another person in that same vein is June Bear, is a Saber player who's really very very good. So both of them are sort of offline demons who, if you go to a lot of tournaments, you'll know who they are. But as far as like the online player base is concerned, they might not know them. Um, as far as online players are concerned, Arhai is
Oh, all right,
unbelievable.
yeah.
Coma player also plays Miyako. Um, really good. I have been unbelievably impressed with his gameplay. doing things that even top players aren't doing. Really good on defense with things like Stonehead. Um, so he's phenomenal. Um, as far as other sort of hidden players, I'd like to shout out one of my boys from Philly, actually, Zoe, who's a he's a sweet player. Um, he used to play the game a bit more actively than he does now, but um, he had a very, very close last interaction set with Naito at Climax. And this guy's really insane, and I would put the whole scene on watch if he decided that, this was going to be his main game instead of Uni. So those four, I think, are really phenomenal players that should definitely keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I feel like ooh, I forgot. Oh, I remember. Uh, right, I remember now. So going back to the World Series and whatnot. Well, no, not World Series. About the feeling for competing.
Mm.
What what do you think is the most common trap that most Lumina players fall into in forms of like mental, in terms of mental?
So, I mean, we mentioned earlier guides that I've done before. I've done a guide on your mental, on how to improve in this game too. Um, so believe me, if you feel that your mental's not up to snuff, um, please go and watch that. I'm sure it'll help you. Um, but I think the main trap, especially for Lumina, because I mentioned earlier how it can become sort of a scrambly game, um, is people not having the correct goal in mind. So, I mean, if you're a competitor and you really, truly want to get to the top level, um, the most important thing is not winning every set or winning every interaction. It is winning the final set, the final game, the final interaction, right? Closing out something and actually winning. That's what's important. Um, in a tournament sense anyway. Uh, but people carry over that mentality a lot into casual sets or every tournament that they enter. And if we can be realistic, like Mashfest, for instance, is a very very difficult event. It's extremely hard. Um, pretty much every single top player, a couple of them are competing every single week. You'll see tonight if you're watching on Monday. Um, this series is really difficult. So going in with the intent to learn and improve, like you're not going to win Mashfest if that's not the level that you're at. If you're consistently going 0-2 or 1-2, you're not going to win. So taking every bit of information you can from casuals and from tournaments. As long as you didn't pay $500 to be there, there's no reason to be beating yourself up after if you lost. And I think people really just need to compartmentalize the fact that in order to reach your final goal, if you're a competitor, which is to be the best, you need to trudge through and you need to practice and you need to lose and you need to get absolutely destroyed. And I know that feels kind of bad, but if you keep in mind that the goal of playing is to become the best, if that's what you want, then all of those losses are just learning opportunities, and you're really hindering yourself by getting angry about it or sad about it. Um, you're just doing yourself a disservice. So it's really framing all of the experiences that you have playing in the game toward reaching that one, common goal. And I think people just forget that and let their rage or sadness take over instead.
Yes, going out with the goals, like you're not gonna win every casual. Like you should honestly you should want to win during casual, but it's
Hmm.
not the end of the world.
Yeah,
You win some, you lose some.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I've gone to great lengths to talk about this, but um, there are a couple things that I do in casual specifically. I'll work on one thing really hard, so I'll throw something at the wall until it sticks. Like the other day, I was working really hard on air-to-air confirms, which is not an easy task on Mario. So I was just jumping all the time to try to fish for it. And it caused me to lose to players that, in a tournament setting, I wouldn't lose to in a million years, but that doesn't matter to me. I'm working on something specifically. So this set, this first to 5, this first to 10, this first to whatever, doesn't matter. It's, oh, let's look back at this. Did I do the things that I was looking to do? Um, if so, great. If not, then boot it back up, you know? And then as far as tournaments concerned, playing a tournament's really hard and it's a skill that you have to master. Um, so I do plenty of practice tournaments, especially when um, I'm playing a new character. Even if it's not ready, I'll enter still because, you know, being able to execute and play under pressure, especially with new characters that you don't have muscle memory for, um, it's super important. So, you know, you should sack a couple weeks in order to just, okay, I'm going to spend time playing in this tournament with the sole purpose of doing better at some point in the future, you know? So it's just about reframing your perspective, but I know that's a difficult task, so I don't blame people, but if it's happened for a long time, many times in a row, then we have to look inward, I think.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing to go
Mhm.
off of your thing. This is a PSA. Well, yeah, PSA to everybody. Please stop rage queuing. Please.
Mm,
I, I don't want to. It doesn't do anybody any good. After I lose in a tournament, I go to sleep. I
mhm,
eat and go to sleep. I can think about the next day. I'm not trying to think about that same day. No
mhm.
way. It will do nothing good. I will know. I will know. It's nothing good.
Especially because it's usually super late at night. It's like
Yeah.
that doesn't help either.
Mass Fest runs till
You,
like what 11,
yeah,
12?
yeah. Oh, I mean, most people who are rage queuing are getting out at like 9 or 10, but
Well, yeah.
um, you know, like you are playing by far your worst Melty Blood at that point. So, you know, you're just gonna get more angry. Save your mental. There's always tomorrow.
Okay. So the people need to know, Jaykom.
Mhm.
What are your top 5 romance anime?
Oh, this is a good question, and it changes all the time, unfortunately. This is all that I watch. I'm not super big on anime anymore, but you know, as every new romance, I'll still watch it. Um, Number one is Fruits Basket. It's actually not even particularly close. This series is phenomenal. The new one, the old one's a bit, yeah, but the new one's phenomenal. Maid Sama. Um, March comes in like a line. It's not particularly a romance, but it kind of is, you know, a little bit. Um, that series also phenomenal. Chihaya Furu, which also, and there are romance elements. More of a sports anime, but it is romancy. Also phenomenal. And then number 5, let's think about this. Um, okay, so it's currently airing, but I read the manga for it. Blue Box.
Oh, Blue Box is really, that's the one I'm reading right now.
Blue Box is OD. I've been on it since it started serializing in Shonen Jump. It's amazing. I'm currently watching the anime whenever I have time, which is not very often these days. But at the very least, I've read it. It's really very, very good. And I'm hoping it'll move up a couple slots eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of good choices. A lot like I want to say, yeah, I guess old now. A lot like
Yeah.
fruit. Well, no, the fruits basket, the new fruits basket. Maid Summer's old now.
Hmm.
Jennifer is kind. Well, it's still kind of recent. What was the third one again?
March comes in like a line.
Okay, right.
It's also, I mean, all of them came out prior to like 2018, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're getting a bit up in age. I'm getting a bit up in age, so I guess that's how it goes.
I don't know. You might have to go get Warrior Cane soon.
I think so. Everybody calls me Unk in PSA now. Brutal.
Mm, probably put some 30. Okay.
Not yet, thank God.
Okay. Any last honestly, I think I already tossed this, but any last things to address? Like you want to shout out Philly? Anything? Any last words really?
Yeah, I'll give a little outro for myself, I suppose. Um, please God, lab against Mario. It will save you mentally. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me or Kirby, or the Mario channel in PSA, which is undoubtedly the most active channel in the entire thing. Also, if you're around the Philly area, every couple of months we have a regional called Go for Broke, and I know the TO very well. So if we can get some people, in the area that want to participate, I tweet it out every single time that they run it. If we get enough people, we can run a Type Luminary tournament. It'll be streamed, and the venue's amazing, and there's plenty of parking, and it's in a great spot. There's a lot of food. So please come. And if you're interested and you live in driving distance of Philly, shoot me a message, and I'll tell you about when the next one is. Um, Also, if you follow me on Twitter and I follow you on Twitter and you retweet anything explicit onto my timeline, I'm sorry, but you're probably blocked or muted on my shit. So this is nothing personal. I'm just not interested. So that's a PSA for everybody.
Please. Me too. I don't want to see that. Okay. This has been Freedom Ringer Jaykom on the Minds of Melty. Thank you all for watching or listening, and have a good day, good morning, good night. No, this is not copyrighted.